10 names, 10 people, and a price tag that can reach $10 million. That is the offer now publicly on the table from the United States government. Money, and in some cases, the possibility of relocation to the United States for information leading to those individuals. Not fugitives in the traditional sense, not anonymous suspects, senior figures connected to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the invitation is unusually direct. If someone has information, the U.S. State Department says it wants to hear from them through secure channels, encrypted messaging platforms, even through the Tor network. Before we move forward, if you value clear, fact-based news without the noise, take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important update. Now think about that for a moment. A government program publicly inviting tips about the leadership of a powerful military organization inside another country, with a reward that could reach 8 figures and the possibility of starting a new life in America. That's not a routine announcement. And it raises a series of questions that unfold one after another. Who exactly are these 10 people? Why these particular figures? Why now? And why, notably, are several of Iran's most recognizable leaders not on the list? We'll come back to that. But first, the structure of the program itself. The U.S. State Department has a long-running initiative known as a rewards program. Its purpose is straightforward: provide financial incentives for information that helps identify or locate individuals connected to specific security concerns. Over time, the program has made a habit of attaching large numbers to information. Sometimes the sums reach into the millions. Sometimes the announcements are carefully worded and narrowly targeted. But this latest expansion carries a very specific shape. 10 Iranian leaders, each connected, according to U.S. officials, to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the reward attached to information about them can reach up to $10 million. Let me walk you through how the announcement is framed. Officials say the reward is available for information related to these individuals. The goal is to encourage people who might know something to come forward. But there is another detail in the announcement that stands out immediately: the communication methods. Tips are not limited to traditional reporting channels. Instead, the State Department says information can be submitted through secure communication tools, encrypted messaging platforms, and the Tor network, an online system designed to allow users to communicate anonymously. Pause there for a second. Think about the practical meaning of that design. A program structured specifically so that a person, potentially anywhere, could transmit information while maintaining a degree of digital anonymity. That detail matters because it hints at the kind of environment the program expects potential sources might be operating in. An environment where communication itself could carry risks. And that is why the announcement also includes another striking element: relocation, not just payment. The State Department indicates that individuals who provide qualifying information could potentially relocate to the United States. That possibility sits alongside the financial reward: money and a new place to live. Now, programs offering relocation assistance are not unheard of in intelligence or security contexts, but when they appear in a public announcement tied to specific names and a multi-million-dollar reward, it sends a message. It tells anyone considering providing information that the program is prepared for consequences. That detail becomes important as we examine who is and who is not part of this list, because the 10 individuals identified in the announcement are described as senior figures connected to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC, as it is often abbreviated, is a powerful institution inside Iran. It operates alongside the country's conventional military forces and holds significant influence. U.S. officials say the individuals named in the reward program are senior figures connected to that organization. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Some of Iran's most widely recognized political leaders are not included. The Iranian president is not on the list. The Iranian foreign minister is not on the list. And that distinction, who appears and who does not, creates a line inside the announcement itself. On one side, 10 individuals tied to the Revolutionary Guard Corps. On the other side, prominent officials in Iran's political leadership who were not named. Why draw the boundary there? Hold that thought. Because this entire announcement is happening within a broader moment of tension. The United States and Iran are already in the middle of ongoing tensions and military conflict. That background is not hidden in the announcement. It sits right beneath it, which means the timing of this program expansion becomes part of the story. A reward offer, a list of names, secure channels for anonymous communication, and the possibility of relocation to the United States. All introduced during a period when relations between the two countries are already strained. There's a quote I want to pause on here. Sometimes the quietest offers carry the loudest message, because this announcement, despite its bureaucratic language, is not small. It signals a willingness to place significant resources behind information related to specific figures connected to the Revolutionary Guard Corps. $10 million is not a symbolic number, and yet the structure of the offer suggests that the State Department expects potential informants might need more than money. They might need protection. They might need a path somewhere else, which is why the relocation possibility appears alongside the reward. Think about that for a moment. Someone somewhere could be weighing whether information they hold might change the course of their own life entirely, but the deeper question, the one that sits right underneath this entire development, is about selection. Why these 10 individuals? Why structure the announcement in this way? And what does it mean that the list excludes Iran's president and foreign minister? Because that distinction, that boundary between military-linked figures and political leadership, becomes a crucial piece of the narrative, and it leads directly into what happens next. So let's return to the question hanging at the end of the last section. Why these 10 individuals? Because the announcement from the United States did something very precise. It identified 10 Iranian leaders described by officials as senior figures connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, not Iran's entire leadership, not the country's most visible political figures. Instead, a defined group tied to one institution, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And that choice, who appears on the list and who does not, forms the quiet boundary inside this story. The State Department's reward program now offers up to $10 million for information on those 10 individuals. Up to $10 million. That phrase matters. It signals that the reward could reach that amount depending on the value of the information provided. And again, the program does not simply promise payment. It opens the door to relocation to the United States. Money, potentially. A new home, possibly. And the opportunity to communicate through secure digital channels designed to protect anonymity. Now think about how those elements work together. First, there is the list of individuals. Second, the financial reward. Third, the promise of secure communication. Fourth, the possibility of relocation. Each piece forms part of a structure intended to reach someone who might possess information but might also face risks in sharing it. Encrypted messaging platforms are specifically mentioned as acceptable channels for submitting tips. The Tor network is also included. Tor, which routes internet traffic through layers of encryption and relay systems, is often used to help conceal the identity and location of users. The inclusion of Tor in the announcement means the program is explicitly acknowledging the need for anonymous digital contact. That is not an incidental detail. It reflects the expectation that someone with information might want or need to communicate without revealing their identity at the outset. And the design of the program accommodates that possibility. Imagine someone considering whether to send a message. Imagine weighing the potential reward against the uncertainty of exposure. Imagine reading that relocation to the United States could be possible. That combination of factors forms the backbone of the program's appeal. But the story continues to turn on the identities attached to the reward. Officials say the individuals on the list are senior figures connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC holds a powerful role within Iran. It operates as a major military and security organization and maintains significant influence. The U.S. government's decision to focus the reward program on individuals tied to that institution places the emphasis on a specific segment of Iran's leadership structure. And that brings us back again to the notable absences. The Iranian president is not included. The Iranian foreign minister is not included. Those omissions stand out because those two positions are among the most internationally recognized roles in Iran's government. The president represents the country's executive leadership. The foreign minister is the chief diplomatic voice on the global stage, yet neither appears among the 10 names identified in the reward expansion. Instead, the program centers on figures connected to the Revolutionary Guard Corps. That separation between political leadership and IRGC-linked individuals creates a very particular framing. The announcement identifies the targeted individuals as senior figures connected to the Guard Corps. But it leaves the country's top political officials outside that specific list. Why does that detail matter? Because the way a government defines its target group can shape how the entire initiative is understood. 10 names connected to a military organization, a reward that can reach $10 million, secure anonymous communication pathways, and the possibility of relocation, all revealed in a moment when tensions between the United States and Iran remain active. The announcement itself acknowledges the broader context: ongoing tensions, military conflict. Those conditions form the backdrop to the expansion of the reward program. And when a policy decision appears during a moment of heightened tension, timing becomes part of the narrative. The reward announcement does not exist in isolation. It arrives in the middle of a complicated relationship between two governments, one that has included diplomatic disputes, security concerns, and military developments. Now, consider the human dimension for a moment. A person who might possess information about one of those 10 individuals could be anywhere: inside Iran, outside Iran, connected to those figures professionally, or perhaps connected indirectly. The program's structure seems designed to reach across those possibilities. Encrypted messaging platforms allow digital contact. The Tor network provides another route for anonymous communication. Relocation offers a potential outcome if cooperation leads to serious consequences. And the financial reward sits at the center of it all: $10 million. That number carries weight. It is large enough to attract attention, large enough to suggest that the information sought is considered highly valuable. There's a short line I want to pause on here. Sometimes a number tells the story before the words do. $10 million does exactly that. The figure communicates urgency without needing additional explanation. But there is another layer to the story that becomes clearer as we examine the program's mechanics. The reward is not described as automatic. It is tied to information that leads somewhere, information that has value to the program's goals. And because the announcement centers on 10 specific individuals, it suggests that the program is looking for details connected directly to those figures. The structure is precise: 10 individuals, up to $10 million, secure communication channels, potential relocation, and an explicit connection to senior figures within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now remember the broader moment we mentioned earlier: ongoing tensions between the United States and Iran, military conflict. Those conditions frame the timing of the announcement, which means the expansion of the reward program becomes one piece of a larger geopolitical environment. But the announcement itself stays tightly focused. It does not list every Iranian official. It does not address the entire government. It identifies 10 individuals linked to the Revolutionary Guard Corps and invites information about them. That narrow focus is deliberate. And as we move forward, another question begins to surface. What happens if information actually arrives through those encrypted channels? What happens if someone sends a message through Tor or through a secure platform claiming to have details about one of those 10 individuals? Because the announcement opens the door, but it does not describe the moment when that door might be used. And that possibility, the moment when a tip might arrive, changes the stakes of everything we have discussed so far. The offer has been made. The channels are open. The reward stands. And somewhere out there, someone might be deciding whether to speak. History sometimes turns on a whisper. That thought lingers as the story moves toward its final chapter. Because once an invitation like this is made publicly, the consequences can travel in directions that no one fully predicts. And the next part of this story is not about the offer itself. It is about what the offer means and what it reveals about the moment in which it was made. Now we come to the final piece of this story, because by the time the United States State Department publicly expanded this reward program, several elements were already firmly in place. 10 Iranian leaders identified as senior figures connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a reward that can reach up to $10 million for information related to those individuals. Secure communication channels, encrypted messaging platforms, and the Tor network, specifically named as pathways for tips, and the possibility that someone who provides qualifying information could relocate to the United States. Each of those elements matters on its own. But taken together, they form a structure that tells us something about the moment in which this announcement appears. The United States and Iran are already in the middle of ongoing tensions and military conflict. That context sits quietly beneath the announcement but never disappears. It shapes how the offer is heard, because a reward program does not operate in a vacuum. It operates within the broader environment of international relations and security concerns. And here that environment includes active friction between the two countries. The reward expansion does not describe the conflict in detail. It simply acknowledges that tensions and military confrontation exist. But that acknowledgement is enough to anchor the timing of the announcement. Think about that for a moment. An offer of up to $10 million for information about specific Iranian leaders, introduced during a period when the two nations are already facing one another across a tense geopolitical landscape. That detail changes how the entire development is understood. The program itself invites information. It does not publicly describe who might possess that information. It does not speculate about where those individuals might be located. Instead, it establishes the framework. Anyone with information can reach out through secure channels, encrypted messaging platforms, the Tor network. Both of those options emphasize digital privacy and anonymity. They allow communication without requiring immediate disclosure of identity. And that approach reflects an understanding that potential sources may want protection even before any conversation begins. Now imagine the mechanics of that moment. A message arrives through one of those encrypted systems, perhaps a short text, perhaps a longer explanation. The sender claims to have information about one of the 10 individuals connected to the Revolutionary Guard Corps. That message would represent the first step in a process the program is designed to support. But the public announcement itself stops before that stage. It focuses only on the invitation. The door is open. The reward exists. The communication methods are ready. What happens afterward is not described in the announcement. And that restraint keeps the focus squarely on the offer itself. Let's revisit the individuals named in the program. Officials describe them as senior figures connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That designation places them inside a powerful military and security institution within Iran. The Revolutionary Guard Corps operates alongside other military forces and plays a significant role inside the country. The United States government's reward program singles out 10 individuals associated with that organization, not Iran's entire leadership, not the country's political front-facing figures. The Iranian president is not part of the list. The Iranian foreign minister is not included either. Those omissions remain one of the most striking details of the announcement, because they illustrate how narrowly the program defines its focus. The target group is limited to individuals described as senior figures connected to the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and that specificity becomes the core of the initiative. 10 people, up to $10 million, secure channels for anonymous tips, possible relocation to the United States. Now consider the human dimension again. Someone with information about one of those individuals might read the announcement and begin to calculate possibilities, financial possibilities, personal risks, potential consequences, relocation if necessary. The announcement itself acknowledges that relocation may be part of the outcome. That detail signals preparation for a scenario in which providing information could fundamentally alter a person's circumstances. It is not simply a financial transaction. It is a pathway that might lead someone from one life into another. A brief quote fits here. Sometimes the biggest decisions begin with a single message. That quiet moment, someone deciding whether to send information, is the unseen center of this entire story, because the program cannot function unless someone somewhere chooses to respond. And the structure of the offer suggests that the State Department understands the weight of that decision. Encrypted messaging platforms are mentioned explicitly. So is the Tor network. Those tools exist for people who need privacy and communication. Their inclusion sends a signal to potential sources that anonymity can be preserved during initial contact. That message matters in environments where sharing sensitive information could carry serious consequences. Now step back and consider the larger frame one more time. A reward program offering up to $10 million, 10 Iranian leaders identified as senior figures connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, secure communication channels designed to protect anonymity, and the possibility of relocation to the United States, all announced during a period marked by ongoing tensions and military conflict between the United States and Iran. Each of those facts stands on its own, but together they form a single narrative, an invitation for information, a financial incentive tied to that information, and a system designed to allow someone to come forward without immediately revealing who they are. The announcement does not speculate about what might happen next. It does not predict outcomes. It simply establishes the program and opens the door. And that leaves us with the quiet final image at the center of this entire development. Somewhere in the world, someone may read the details of the offer. They may see the number attached to the reward. They may notice the mention of encrypted communication and the Tor network. They may see the possibility of relocation, and they may realize that the program is designed for exactly that moment of decision. History rarely announces itself in advance. Sometimes it begins with an offer, sometimes it begins with a question, and sometimes it begins with a message sent through a secure channel arriving silently on the other end. The United States has made the offer. 10 names, up to $10 million, a path to communicate securely, and the possibility of starting over somewhere else. What follows from that offer is a story that will unfold only if someone decides to answer it.